Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big drama hitting the timeline today. Rumours emerging that certain teams have been leaking their scrim sets against other teams to other competition, affecting the competitive integrity of this VALORANT league as it stands. This has been a big problem, it seems, in the Pacific. Frost has talked about it for years, and now it seems there is evidence to support this case. Lots of drama hitting the timeline today as a result. Roster changes potentially elsewhere as well. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Are Riot gonna step in on this one if this actually proves to be true? Firstly, M80. They played with their new team. Victor is in. Of course, B-Dog is gone. And, well, they lost. I mean, they got kind of destroyed. It wasn't exactly great. They played Ambrosia. Now, Ambrosia, honestly, like, probably kind of underrated. These guys are nice. But still, M80, I mean, the context of it doesn't look great. I know that it's their first series with the team, so fair enough. They lost the Ascent 13-10. They won the Split 13-9. And then they lost the Fracture 13-4. Now, Fracture's getting removed out of the pool, so, you know, maybe they'll think, all right, whatever. Like, that change is happening soon. But still, not the ideal start for M80 because they made the change because they came second in the Americas Challengers side to SRB. They wanted to get better. They brought in Victor, they brought in Chet, and maybe they still will. But for now, obviously, questions will continue to be raised. These were the other games from yesterday. So YFP, that's of course the team that B-Dog did go to. And okay, he really didn't have a great series here, to be fair, either. So maybe M80 won't be too unhappy about it. But yeah, 7 with a masterclass on TS. They won the Lotus 13-11 and then slammed them on YFP's pick on the Haven 13-4. So this is a pretty clean-cut affair in the end. So TSM advance up as well. Qubit Academy, they took down the Burger Boys. This is a pretty close series, but in the end, Qubit a little bit too good. 13-8, 13-11 in the end. So they advance onwards as well. And the final game was Envy versus Sad. And, you know, this was a pretty crushing one. Kane Zera, Ion, so like these guys are out of control. I mean, honestly, the talent on this team is just so exciting to watch, and I know that they had a bit of a slump for a while, but maybe they're back now, right? I mean, look, when they became Envy, they looked a little bit weaker, but I think there's no denying the level of talent on this team, and, you know, it's just such a difficult team to play against. So it was 13-6, 13-6 on both the Lotus and the Ascent, and this is therefore how things currently look. So this is the Swiss stage continuing as it stands, and, well, as it started up again for the second stage, we've got Ambrosia, Qubit, TSM, and Envy starting out at 1-0, and then, of course, we've got, you know, all these other teams will play each other over the next day or so, as you guys can see at the bottom, if you have a particular favourite you are keeping an eye on. So that's how things look for now. Just to keep an eye on the regular league as well in Tier 1. It starts up again today for EMEA, just to have a look at some of the games there. So Na'Vi played Giant X today, as to Movistar KOI versus BBL. So pretty important games. Giant X are probably cooked, but if they can win that one against Na'Vi, then that's going to be a big deal. Regardless, both of these series, at least one of the teams is kind of on their last legs on some respect. Certainly KOI, I mean, BBL need to win that one, right? And KOI, their map record is not looking so good so far. Fnatic are topping up Group A, and speaking of Fnatic, we got this from Kojo today, off-season never ends. Now, he does drop an eagle emoji. Now, I think they confirm in the replies that it's not a Leo comeback, right? So, you know, people are hopeful, obviously, that Leo will come back at some point. It's not happened now. It's not happened yet. Will it happen ever? I'd love it to. Is it going to? I don't know. Every day that goes by, I guess it becomes less likely that, you know, he'll ever come back to Fnatic. Hopefully he will. We're still not really sure what's happening there, but, you know, wishing him the best, obviously, in the entire team too. However, because they weren't getting Leo back, they have made the decision to sign Crashies for this year, right? Crashies came over. We don't really know what type of contract that was on. It may have been a short-term deal. That's the theory anyway, because it's got the eagle emoji, right? So American Eagle and all that stuff. It's plausible that they've extended Crashies, right? Because who else would they bring in? I mean, who else do they need? They've obviously made the controversial change, getting rid of Durka and putting in Kayak. And, okay, that, well, was looking okay, but maybe not spectacular. And then when they brought in Crashies, that seems to have helped them really advance to the next level. So they've been looking good over the last couple of series. The Vitality win was very impressive. So, and look, they've got head coach, assistant coach, manager, performance coach, like all this stuff. So it's not like they need additional staff, you would think anyway. So if I had to guess, it's probably a Crashies extension, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's talk about the drama. So, a few days ago, you guys might remember, G Juvenile was banned for a year from the VCT Pacific in a competitive ruling. We talked about that the other day. So I wanted to share this clip, which is pretty spicy actually. This is their new coach. Well, this is Elevated, who's coaching Global Esports now. And he's effectively stepped up to be the new head coach of the team. Now, he had a few words to say on the situation with Juvenile, what it means for their roster and Global Esports going forwards. But it's not just the only thing that he had to say last night.
Yeah, definitely have some different ideas and approaches to how I want the team to be run and how practice should be run and prep and all of that stuff. To be perfectly honest, I was doing a large portion of the VOD review and prep for matches anyway, so not a lot has changed as far as the prep for matches. But definitely it is different being in the head coaching slot where everything is kind of on you. You don't really have sort of like a buffer of responsibility. So now everything is definitely my responsibility, and I think that performances like today are kind of unacceptable as far as my standard goes. So yeah, I mean, we have to demand more from the players, we have to demand more from ourselves as coaches, and I'm going to be honest, having Derek in the booth was a breath of fresh air because he was very good with the players, and he's obviously is a player, and so it was helpful to have him and his energy and his ideas because he has a different outlook on the game and more sort of like micro adjustments that can be made. So I'm happy that he was there for me, and yeah, I mean, we're probably going to have to retool some of our approach anyway, because obviously things are not working.
So now I've introduced you to the characters involved. This is what he had to say yesterday. Gen.G Academy offering to scrim 4 days before we play the main team is very cute. Really, guys? Question mark. So the implication is quite clear. Gen.G Academy would scrim the Global Esports team and feed back all of the information they got to the main Gen.G roster and say, hey, they're running this composition. They like to run this strat. Here's the recording and all this, right? Does this happen? You would like to think no from a competitive integrity angle, but it absolutely does happen. I mean, certainly when you've got an academy team and a main team, it makes a lot of, I mean, inevitably, surely something is going to be said, especially when apparently Gen.G Academy were offering to scrim. It's not like Elevated went to them. I mean, he never would go to them directly, but you know what I'm saying, right? They hit him up and like, hey, you want to scrim in a couple of days? Like, that would be good. We're good scrim partners and all this. And Elevated obviously sees right through that. So, as Rashindra says here from Global Esports, let's accept and send our academy team. That's a win-win. Now, Riot Jaker, who of course works for VALORANT Esports, like for Riot, in the reply says, I'm here for the drama. But, it's not just drama, baby. Like, there might be something to this because we get Frost in the replies. Now, what I find funny about the Pacific as a region is that there's not that much drama in the Pacific. The players keep themselves, not too much chaos between the different parties. But there is drama with the coaches, right? With the coaches over there, something's always going on in the Pacific with regard to the coaches. So Jake from Riot says, I'm here for the drama, like I'm listening effectively. And Frost says, you sure you're here? Like, the proof's in your inbox, right? Check your DMs, check your inbox, and we have proof. So this raises a really interesting question. We'll see some more tweets in a second. But you guys may remember when Chet, he broadcast a scrim on stream, and he was banned for 6 months from competition for doing so because he didn't have, permission basically to broadcast that content. Now that scrim was old footage. That was months ago and effectively maybe wasn't massively relevant for the competitive meta that was presently existing. But, it was against the rules. They decided to make a statement out of Chet and they banned him for 6 months. We know that to be true. Okay, but if you're going to ban somebody for 6 months for revealing a scrim in that way that probably wasn't relevant really from a competitive perspective anyway, what are you going to do if teams have been sending scrims behind the scenes to their friends in the scene to help others play better in their official matches against them? This is one of the things in Valorant when you've got compositions and, the amount of strategies that can potentially be employed, that if you're friends with someone on another team and you've just scrimmed that team, you may say, watch out for this comp on this map. How do you stop that? Well, it's difficult, but you want to punish teams that are caught doing so, right? In the same way that they made an example of Chet, they made an example of Juvenile. If there's proof of something like this happening, they might want to make an example in this case as well. So Frost says that he's got proof of this. Not necessarily with Gen.G Academy, I mean, who knows? But he reckons that he's got proof of it, right? And I found a couple of tweets from Frost over the last couple of years. He said the following, I'm going to reiterate this again, scrim leaks have happened since First Strike. You have to adapt your practice to handle this outcome. He says, always amusing when players talk about scrim leaks as if it hasn't been happening for years. When you're on top of the mountain, this is par of the course in any game. The trick is in the balance between working on stuff and getting reps with your standard sets, because if you try and mess around with too many interesting ideas, somebody's going to leak it to an opponent that they might be friends with or whatever. And Frosten even said this is at the end of April, like, you know, last year. It's embarrassing that scrim leaks still happen. It's even worse knowing what's coming and then losing. So I thought this is an interesting idea that obviously, you know, working with talent today, but you're playing a team and you're pretty sure that you scrimmed a team the other day that gave them all the information. Then you play that team and you're like, well, you know, good luck basically. And that's also the other issue, is that in your head, all of a sudden you think you're at a sizable disadvantage. And it's not just Frost saying this, because Tanmay says it too. Still don't get how people scrim them. And this is now specifically targeting Gen.G and about, you know, a potential issue here, because look, maybe this is a very widespread problem, but reportedly Gen.G are the prime offenders in this case. I mean, Gen.G Academy, obviously we've discussed them, and then Tanmay says, I don't even get how people still scrim them. Even scrimming against the main team isn't safe. They share VOD with their friends. So, you know, this is a really big deal. Now, of course, look, it's an accusation with no proof, but Frost says that he's got the proof, and it's in Jake's DMs. So, I mean, yeah, big deal, right? Where are we going to go from here? I'm fascinated, because we're 4 days away from Gen.G play Global Esports, and Gen.G, for all their success, there's now rumours going around that these guys are, you know, they're sharing scrim leaks with some of their friends, the guys that they maybe played with before. Maybe a coach of the team's friends with another coach, and they say, oh, you know, watch out for this, watch out for that. How are they going to get caught doing so? And then obviously I imagine that it works the other way as well, right? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing, right? Like, you give me a couple of bits of scrim information, I'll maybe give you a couple of bits to help you in your games, and then artificially affecting some of the results in this league. So really big deal. We'll see. I mean, drama is everywhere, as always. I mean, whenever there's drama, Frost is going to do his best to get involved. But if indeed there is some evidence to support this, right, have to think about what that means, because if you're looking from a competitive integrity angle, then there's clearly a breach and a violation here going on. If this is true, it's just something which is very difficult to police. What would the proof even look like? I mean, that's also a good question. So very much into your thoughts in the comments. Just a couple of final things. Scrims over the last couple of days. 100T Lev, 19-4. This is bad. Like, well, this is good for Thieves. Bad for Lev, obviously. Like, they've played lots of rounds and Thieves have won most of them. So, I don't know. We'll see. I just wanted to go through a couple of scrim results, really. Thieves have impressed me lately. I think they're getting better and better. Lev, kind of not so sure about them, even with their decent result the other day. EG were down 10-0 as well to G2. That's certainly one of the results of all time. We had G2 play Sen as well, and that was 7-4. So, you know, smaller sample size in the 100T Lev game, but still nonetheless relevant. And even with Luxo, Loud, it seems, still kind of struggling to get past 2G. So if everyone's interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.